Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to a new series of the Legal Forum, here only on the Islam channel with me, Lee Clark. Legal Forum is a program where each week we discuss common topics in layman terms to help guide you with legal advice. Breaking down the complex language of law, the Legal Forum will also highlight real-life cases and scenarios which will be shared by our expert. In this series, we've partnered up with Khan Solicitors and we'll be discussing common topics like family law, immigration, wills and probate, landlord and tenant disputes, and domestic violence. Since its first establishment in 1985, Khan Solicitors have been committed to delivering professional legal advice at the highest standards. A multidisciplinary practice, the firm has grown in both size and reputation from its humble beginnings as a sole partner firm. Today, Khan's is not only one of the longest established firms in Essex, but also boasts some of the most experienced solicitors. I'm pleased to welcome back Omar Khan, one of the partners and solicitors of the firm, who will help today discuss financial and children matters within the family law sector, and a topic which carries on our first episode from where we talked about divorce. So once you have your legal advice about the divorce, we can then move forward and how we file with the children and financial aspects. I'd like to welcome Omar to the show today. Omar, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Nice to see you again. Now, last week we talked about, of course, the divorce matters within the law and how people will go about that. Now, this week we're going to concentrate on how finance and children and how they will play a part in the actual process of divorce. For you, it's obviously a very sensitive subject. Which is an aspect that people should think about first? Is it the aspect of children and whether they stay with mother and father, or the finances? Which is the area that they should concentrate on dealing with first, would you say?
Well, I think these both aspects are very important, and obviously the finances and obviously children have the same importance. So they carry same, well, you know, in their own place, carry the same weight. So finances are always important in terms of who is going to get what and where the parties are going to live after separating. And obviously the children will go with who and where they are going to stay. And the most important part is the well-being of the children. And who are they going to live with? And obviously they have to have a place, really. And therefore, as soon as the divorce proceedings start, so both parties have to think about these things at the same time.
Can this process be dealt with amicably, or does it have to go to court? Because a lot of people, well, for them who are obviously going through this process, it will be a very stressful time for them. And divorce is not something that, you know, you should take lightly.
Well, yeah, divorce itself, I agree with you. Divorce itself is a traumatic experience for not for, you know, the husband and wife, but it's the whole family.
Of course,
the children are there, so they all getting affected with that as a result. But then obviously they have to start from somewhere where people are settled as soon as possible through that traumatic experience. So I would say that you know, they should start as amicably as possible in order to save themselves and the whole family going through again with the same traumatic experience as they were going through the divorce.
So if a couple have an amicable agreement regarding the children and regarding finances, they obviously will consult somebody like yourself?
Yes, now actually the courts really encourage the parties, I mean the husband and the wife, you know, of the marriage. They have to seek legal independent advice, obviously, but at the same time they have to go through mediation. So the mediation process, what it does is that you know, a mediator who sits down with both parties and then narrow down whatever the issues are and see if the parties can come to you know, some sort of agreement without going to the courts and going through the process, very expensive and very protectorate. So obviously it is important that, you know, the mediation has to be followed, mediation process. But the mediation process is itself obviously does not really, sometimes, you know, parties are so entangled with, past, the marriage and, the enmity as a result of the divorce, and, there are other issues as well. So no one is trying to listen and trying to resolve the issues. So obviously mediators can do so much. But the other aspect is, which I want to tell, our viewers as well, that what happens if it is, it becomes, contentious and it goes to the court, where it can really, really be painful.
It can get very toxic and expensive, I should imagine.
Very expensive. And obviously, and then you go through again that trauma every day, and obviously courts are there to assist us, obviously, and they do really help us. But the problem is that, the procedures are long, you have to go through them, and, you have to spend on each and every step, legal costs. So people sometimes end up spending most of their assets towards the legal bill. Mm-hmm. So I always say that if there is any possibility to our clients, then you make sure that you mediate and you try and resolve those issues.
Because I suppose if children are involved, if you can keep more money within the family, which is going to go to the good causes for looking after your children and keeping the family in a good way,
definitely,
then as opposed to, I'm not trying to put you out of business here, but obviously putting monies towards solicitors which they don't need to.
That's absolutely right. But always my personal opinion has been, all my clients, that try and resolve those issues and save yourself some money and for the children for future.
And stress and duress.
Definitely, that is.
In the current climate, in the way that the world is nowadays, would you say, kind of percentage-wise, do people lean towards sorting out an amicable arrangement, coming to a solicitor, and then finishing their divorce that way, or would you say it's people are still going to court? What's the percentage of people going to court as opposed to sorting it out?
It depends on their personal circumstances, really. If there are more assets, then obviously both parties try and, each of them try.
I suppose that's the longer time they spent together. The more time they spent together, the more assets.
It's more emotional, as well. So sometimes, you don't really need something, but then emotionally you're so attached to it. And you're so annoyed on the other party that, you don't want them to have that. So these kind of things, they just, get so, stubborn. Well, people get stubborn as well. Mm-hmm. And therefore they just, go to any length. But, at the end of the day, it's not really good for any of the parties, really.
Each party will have to get their own solicitors. For instance, a husband and wife couldn't say to you and say, listen, one partner deal with my wife and one partner deal with the husband. Do they have to go to two separate firms? How does it work?
Well, it's conflict of interest, isn't it?
Okay.
So that is very, very important. Or maybe it's possible, it's called Chinese wall, that, if in one office or one firm or there are several branches. Mm-hmm. So if one branch can act for one party, the other branch, as long as they don't have any kind of communication or information about the other party, it can be done. But it's always, there is chance of or risk of, some kind of conflict of interest. So therefore, it's always better to keep their own solicitors.
Omar, what's the best way people can choose the correct legal representation for them?
Mostly people, what they do is ask their family and friends, recommendations probably. And if they are not sure, then they must obviously go online. The Law Society website is there. Nowadays, obviously, you can find on the internet, you have to your local solicitors, you can go up and, read up their profile on the website and, find out more about them and make sure that they do what they say there. And really you want someone who is an expert in that field. Otherwise, you could be in problems, because of your, chosen lawyer.
I suppose one of the things also is the fact is that I think people can help themselves in these situations before they come to you as well. As we touched on earlier on in the discussion, if people have managed to come to some sort of agreement between the two parties, the husband and the wife and the husband, and the children are obviously looked after in a way that they should be, that can help a lot of these situations expedite and go through, and even if you may not have chosen the correct lawyer, even the basics of a divorce lawyer can help you through those processes, I would imagine.
Yes, of course, yeah. It is just a matter of drafting the documents, in the right way, obviously. And make sure that those are drafted correctly so that the court can seal them, approve them. Obviously, because the courts are there to look after the interest of both parties. So if the judge looking at a consent order and it's lopsided, then obviously they are not going to approve it. So it is very important that it is done professionally, it is done properly, so that we don't have any problem going through the court system and getting them sealed. Because once it's stuck in there, and then obviously it will be a waste of time going back and forth.
Real hot topic and a real emotional topic is how children are dealing with this process of divorce. How does it start out, as far if you have a family involved and children, how should a mother and father approach this aspect?
Well, it has to be approached very carefully, really, that where the children want to be. Obviously, where they would want to be, where they have been living together as family. So mostly important stuff is that you look at the children's well-being and where they are happy. So mostly the mother is there if the children are really young and they want to stay with the mother, and then the father can move out, and then wait for the process to go through who is going to get what and how they are going to settle. The other aspects are maintenance. For example, who is going to pay for the children? If the mother is not working, or she is going to look after the children, the father is he's working as well. So how the maintenance is going to work and how they will be, looked after. So it is important that both parties know they should seek legal advice that how to deal with these kind of situations, where mothers or whoever has the children and the other party is working, then they can go to the child maintenance agency as well. If the father or the mother stops paying the maintenance and which the children are entitled to, so they can go through that process and they can help them. They can find out how much the income is of the father or the mother who is earning, and they can set up. There is a calculation they do.
I was going to say, is there a chart which you can work out specifically? If you earn 20,000, you pay this?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. There are so how many children and how much money is the gross income or the net income, and how many days the child is going to live with one parent, and how many nights and days he's going to live, or they're going to live with the other parent. So depending on those kind of situations. So the calculations are done, and then they are paid to the party who is looking after the children. So there is important that they should contact the child maintenance agency.
Is there ever a situation where, say, there are two children, and the parents agree to have one of the children a child each? Does that ever happen?
It does happen. It's not like the financial situation. Well, 50-50, you keep this, I keep this, and it's again it's a splitting up a family and splitting up siblings who have been living together, and they share everything together, and suddenly splitting them as well. So that is not in the best interest of the child, really. And no one would really suggest, or the court will order that split them. They are not articles; they are human beings.
Exactly.
So that is very unlikely.
As much as I didn't get on with my brother when we were younger, I can't ever imagine of not growing up together with him. You know what siblings are like, of course.
Definitely.
But it's an invaluable part of who we become if you spend that time together, obviously.
That's right.
Obviously, as we said, it's a very emotional time for families in this situation. First-hand experiences from yourself. I mean, as far as children are concerned, once they, as we said, they don't get a say where they live or who they live. But after, when they become an adult, is the legal age for an adult 16 or 18 in these matters?
It's 18 really.
Okay.
They can certain circumstances. Obviously, 16 is an age where they can make up their mind, and obviously the court will really listen to them more. Because they are at an age where they can, decide for themselves as well. But legally, it's 18. So until they are 18, obviously, they cannot really decide for themselves. They can give their opinion in certain circumstances, and if they want the preference that where they want to live or where they but legally speaking, they are until they are 18.
Now, once this has been agreed, and then the parents have gone through to the stage of where divorce is going to happen, how do either the courts or the parents decide how often the children get to see one or other of the parents?
Yeah, it's the same procedure. It's the mediation.
Okay.
If who will spend more time and who will keep the children, for how long.
Now, as far as children are concerned, they live in the family home with mother and father, and then the time comes that unfortunately divorce happens. Do the mother and the children have a direct right to stay in the family home, and therefore meaning that the father has to find other accommodation?
Yes, definitely. That's where the first thing first. After splitting up, obviously the children are important, and where the children are going to go. So mostly what happens is that the mother and the children they stay in the property, and the father has to move out and accommodate himself, obviously, for the time being until the sorted.
The question applies, and I've obviously generally asked the question, does it differ from an Islamic point of view to a Western point of view, British laws aside? Are there slight different laws applied to different cases?
Well, it's two different worlds.
Okay.
We are talking about obviously English law here, law of the land, where we obviously practice and the law prevails. However, obviously Islamic law and any other personal law, any other religion, they've got their own personal rules and regulations, according to what they want to do it. But as long as we are living in this country, obviously we have to follow the English laws. But if they want to, and if they wish to really follow their own personal laws, then they should go to, as I explained in our last program as well, that Islamic Sharia Council is there who can help them, about what the laws are of the under the Islamic law, and when they split up and what should be done. And
so, Omar, the other side of the aspect, they can choose maybe which is the right school, but here's an example for you. Can a mother or a father go to the opposite member of the family and say that I want to send the children to a fee-paying school now, which could result in many thousands of pounds each year? Is that possible that a parent could put that on one of the other parents as well?
As I said, that the common sense will prevail, and obviously looking at the circumstances of the other party, who is being forced to pay the fee. Obviously, if they are in that position, then yeah, definitely, if they can, they should. And if they're not listening, then obviously, the other party has the right to contact the court and ask for their decision. And what is in the best interest? If in fee-paying school they want to go to state school, then obviously that will be a little bit of a change as well. And why would they go into from fee-paying school to state school? Whether it will affect them, and what happened, and what circumstances are there to consider that are forcing the children back to or to a new environment. So these are the circumstances which have to be considered. And
Now,
if they are affordable, then why not? And if they can't, then
it should always be best for the children.
that's right.
On the side of the children, if once the divorce has happened, mother and the children live in, say, one address and the father is in a particular address, but say the mother has an opportunity to get a new job or a greater income and provide more for the children, but that job may be 50, 60, 70, 100 miles away from where they currently are, can the mother just pick up routes and take the children to where she has to go, or does she have to consider where their location is?
Well, look, it's at the end of the day, it's both parties' decision, really. They can't just move away without the permission of the other parent. It has to be decided between the parent, and they can't leave sometimes you can't leave the jurisdiction of the England or Wales.
Okay, that has to be agreed on as well.
Yes, of course, because both parties, both parents, they have the right to see the children, have the contact with the children, and do whatever the best interest of the children is. So if one parent is not seeing the children, so children might be affected by seeing their father or the mother for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or so that has to be seen, and then how it can be avoided, so parents don't get affected and the children don't get affected, because they have already been affected by this.
Of course, they're
split.
not being together anyway.
Exactly. So it has to be avoided, any kind of circumstances which lead them again to the circumstances where the children get.
We've come to the end of today's programme. Thank you so much for your wonderful insight. Hopefully that what we've discussed today is going to help people in going forward with the situation of divorce and children and finances as well. But Omar, thank you again for today as always, and we'll see you on our next show as always. So there you have it, some important and very helpful information on financial and children matters within the family law sector. We hope the scenarios and the discussions we've had on today's show can give you a better understanding on today's topic. And I'd like to thank our guest, Omar, sincerely, and of course his solicitors, and being a partner at Khan Solicitors is a great help to me. Please bear in mind the views and opinions expressed in the Legal Forum show should be considered for informational purposes only and not case-specific legal advice. All topics are discussed in a generic nature, and it's important that you consult either with a CAB Law Centre or a solicitor before relying on it. If you'd like to find out more about the Legal Forum or the topic discussed today, then please do email us at legalforum@islamchannel.tv. For now, it's goodbye from me, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.